Shalom, this is Avraham Shira from Nar Shalom. Welcome. This morning we're going to be dealing with a fascinating subject of the repair and restoration of the imagination and what I call a prophetic alignment, which we will understand that the imagination itself is the tool by which a human being receives information from a higher source. Rabbi Nachman explains to us that when there's a spread of the prophetic power in the world, which we see happening today, there's an elevation of faith and a reparation of our imagination. The imagination is a tool that the mind uses to compare experiences, to compare images, to compare sounds. And that process of comparison can get distorted. It can get warped. It can even be corrupted to the point that the imagination will be used for evil and not good. But when we repair the imagination, we realign our ability to look at the world. Now the Rebbe uses the language of birur and tikkun. Birur means to separate, in this case, to separate the good and the bad from the mind itself. And tikkun means to realign and repair the channels that connect the upper self to the lower self. Part of this is also aligning our mind to the symbology of reality that surrounds us. That things are symbols of ideas. And symbols of ideas are comparable. But when I compare the wrong things, then my mind is not properly aligned. Now these are all some of the ideas that we discussed yesterday at length in our Patreon page broadcast. And there's so much information that's connected to these ideas that we could talk forever, really. But nonetheless, here on Facebook Live, we want to give everybody a taste, a chance to see the brilliance of Rabbi Nachman and the brilliance of the prophets before him and how they align the mind so that we can receive from our upper souls. So we have to fix the way we attach importance to symbols. We also have to learn healthy interrelationships of ideas, because we can associate things in a way that leads us to heaven or hell, to purity or filth. And I don't think I have to go into that very deeply. Everybody knows. You see one thing, you think of another. That's your imagination, that thinking of the other. And if my imagination is fixed, I will think of something good. And if my imagination is broken, I will think of something not good. And this is all accomplished, we learned, from the power of prophecy that is emitted into the world by the holy people who achieved these levels of repair. Okay. Once this power of the mind is realigned, then faith is restored. And it becomes much easier to accept the idea that there's an invisible, infinite God hiding behind reality. Because the reality that we live in is only an expression of His power, His speech, and the Torah being the tool of the expression of God's power into the world creates reality. Now the Rebbe told us yesterday that faith is where intellect ends. We all have intellect. Intellect is the tools that God gives us to help us survive. We use our reasoning to determine whether we should eat something or not because we don't want to get poisoned, or we should drink something or not because it's going to make us sick, or whether we should marry someone, buy something. We use our intellect all day long to make decisions. But there's a place where intellect ends, and that's where faith begins. In Kabbalah, that's called the makifim, the surrounding light that we can't reach through reason and logic and information sources that we've already obtained. So that's where faith takes over. We also learn a fascinating idea that the Midrash Rabbah tells us there are 10 levels of prophecy, and these are aligned to the 10 commandments. And guess what? These 10 commandments are aligned to the 10 statements of creation that are mentioned in the beginning chapter of the Bible. And those 10 statements of creation also correspond to Kabbalah, the 10 filters of the soul that make us individuals, that differentiated us from the divine light, which is all one, all echad, undifferentiated life force. The same life force that enters your soul enters my soul. But my vessels are different than yours, so each person's soul is a reflection of his filters. So all these ideas we learned yesterday, and the ideas are not enough, of course, that we have to pray about them. And we have to look at ourselves. What are the things I believe in? Are they true? How does my imagination work? Or does it work at all? What associations do I receive from life around me? What are the obstacles that I face? Some people find it very easy to believe in God. Other people, it's the hardest thing in the world. Now, Rabbi Nachman said that the more intellectual you are, the harder it is to believe in Hashem. Because when a person is very intellectual, he examines everything at depth and at length and at breadth. In every direction, smart people look at things from many different angles. And that might be a good thing if you want to design a new computer. But if you want to have an intimate relationship with God, it might be a very difficult thing to overcome. To believe that there is this life force emanating from the center of the universe that's giving animation to everything. So those were some of the ideas we covered yesterday at length, and I hope this short introduction is useful to people. But if you'd like to go into it deeper and you have the time, please come to us on Patreon. Sign up for some of our packages. We have all kinds of classes coming out. We started a new series on money and God, the currency of the universe. And there's going to be a lot more coming as we're able to meet these technological obstacles that, that separate us over the miles. But really, we live in a miraculous time that we can share these ideas, and that these ideas are finally being brought to the entire world. And that's part of the messianic redemptive process of humanity from its own darkness. Because when you know Hashem, without the fallen belief systems that humanity has created around the idea of God, when we throw away those fallen belief systems and we're left with simple faith, the world's going to be covered with the knowledge of Hashem, like the water covers the sea. So have a great day. We look forward to seeing you again. All the best.